Greetings, greetings, family. We are live. Sister Shanice in the house. It is Wednesday, and I am so looking forward to the show that we've got lined up for you today. Get your young people around the screen. Any young person that you've got in the house, they really absolutely must watch this show this evening. We have a mathematical genius in the house. We have a brother who's a presenter on the Big G Galaxy, alphawe.net, the only de-brainwashing station. And he'll tell you a little bit about his shows on that station in a little while. He's just preparing backstage. So come through the door, let everybody know that we are live, family, and that we are ready to just pop off with some great information for you tonight. So I just want to thank you all so much in advance for tuning in today to the Sister Shanice show. As always, it's going to be a fantastic, bombastic, blacktastic show. We are going to be homing in on our greatness as Africans. And as you know, it's all about changing our mindset. It's about, undoing all of the misinformation, the wrong information that has been downloaded to us as a people. And wow, I have just been so privileged and so honored to have had a whole series of great presenters, scholars, researchers who have been gracing this platform with their knowledge and sharing it with us as a people. And today, family, as I said, we have a very special brother in the house. He's backstage. I'm going to bring him on in one or two moments' time. So as you come through the door, please give us a like. Also, please do let us know that you're in the house. Drop a message in the chat, and we will be absolutely delighted at some point to bring as many of your messages as possible to the front. Okay, let me just bring our guest from backstage to the front of house. Greetings. Welcome, Brother Pi Ratio. How are you?
My sister, I feel blessed to be on your platform, and I feel really excited about today's presentation. I'm really looking forward to sharing what it is I think I know, and the interaction that comes back. I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, such a beautiful spirit, such a humble spirit. I'll tell you, I listen to your shows on Galaxy Alfiri Radio. I'm going to get the link actually, and I'll post it in the chat. And your shows are just incredible. I do the maths, or I try to do the maths with you as we go along. So I wonder if you can just share with our listeners a little bit about the shows that you do on the Big G Galaxy Alfiri, the only de-brainwashing station, and I will find the link and post it in the chat.
Sure.
Well, let them know when you're on as well.
Greetings, family. It's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Just a little bit about myself. My name's Pi Ratio, and I'm a mathematical investigator. And I'm also a pilot on galaxyafiwe.net. And it's a mathematical talk show that comes on every Tuesday between the hours of 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. And it's a show primarily for our students who come home and they may have homework and they're not sure of what the question is asking, or they may feel a little bit weak in the subject, or for whatever reason. We will break down maths for them, as well as we apply maths to situations that happen in life, just to make things more tangible. And that's every Tuesday between the hours of 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Me, myself, I am a mathematical investigator. I've always been fascinated by numbers, and I didn't realize the blessing that I was given until I'd say later on in life, as to how powerful numbers really are. I've worked in the educational industry, teaching and lecturing for a number of years, and I now specialize in applying mathematics to issues and problems and bringing forth mathematical solutions. And I was recently privileged enough to have been invited to Bermuda to share with students and teachers the benefits of understanding our code and how applying these mathematical codes to whatever we do, it gives our purpose a why. That's how powerful mathematics is. And that's why I do it, because I want our people to know the importance of maths and how we are the foreparents of that science.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Let me bring myself back on so I can join you on that screen. Thank you so much for introducing yourself to the family. And wow, you're traveling to do the works as well. As I said, family, get your young people around the screen today because we're going to be getting some powerful information. We touched on a little bit of the topic on my radio show earlier today. So those of you who don't know, I actually do a radio show every Wednesday morning from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. GMT time on the Big G Galaxy Afri. And today we were talking about the power of voodoo, the power of voodoo, and we were looking at the various aspects of voodoo, not just the spiritual side, but we learned today that, it's integrated with science. There's so much science that's integrated into voodoo. And then we were learning about the mathematics in the science, that is a whole nother topic that, we may be able to convince Pi Ratio to come back and teach us about. So let's see who we've got in the house, shall we? And see if we're ready to kick the show off and get the show on the road. So, Max, welcome. He's saying black is beautiful. Yes, black certainly is. Thank you so much for reminding us. So we need to tell each other every day, the beauty of blackness and the power of blackness as well, as we were talking about earlier today. Everything starts from blackness, the black universal. Anyway, that is another show in itself as well. Brian is saying that you're a gifted teacher. Awesome. And Max said, yes, I discovered that you can subtract consecutive square numbers by adding them together. Oh, consecutive square numbers. You can subtract consecutive square numbers by adding them together. Oh, that's an interesting discovery. Rise up yourself for that. Did you notice how pi is stretched out there as a series of numbers from 1 through to 9 with other numbers in between? Oh, very observant. Okay, Gebra in the house. Welcome. As I said, I've posted the link to the Big G Galaxy Fiwi in the chat. So you've got that there. Rise up, Sister Afri Jamo. Great to have you in the house all the way from Ghana. Tianja is in the house from Bermuda. We've got Bermuda in the house. We've got Ghana in the house. Where else do we have in the house? Who else? I know Gebra's from the UK. Rise up, Gebra. Brian, where are you from? He's saying greetings, Sister Shanice and Doc Pi Ratio for profound wisdom and knowledge. You know what you've got to come. Leo's in the house, and he's saying that we should stop calling these monuments pyramids. Okay, Kemetu built Mr. Kahuti places or houses of ascension temples. Okay, so he's got another name for the pyramids there, and he's saying, I wish you guys would stop calling them pyramids. They're houses of ascension. Okay, thank you so much for that. It's going to be really difficult, when you're just in the habit of, calling something a particular name. But we'll see what we can do. Carol's in the house. Rise up, Carol. Hotep. All the way from Maryland in the USA. Rise up, Lily. Rise up, Mundele. Yenge Pimpa. Kiambote. Sister Shanice. Longunia, Brother Pi Ratio. Greetings, brothers and sisters from the UKKK. Rise up. Kimani, rise up, Master Teacher Pi Ratio. Oh, the family is coming through the door. I think we are ready for you, our wonderful guest today. He's already introduced himself to you as a mathematical investigator, and did you mention that he attended and studied computer science and mathematics at university? And he's always had a lifelong interest and passion for studying mathematics, and in that pursuit of uncovering truth using mathematics. And wow, family, we are in for a treat today. This is an award winning scholar in mathematics that we have in front of us today. He won the Stereograph Foundation UK a Platinum Mathematician Award. Wow, for groundbreaking techniques. Wow, in the execution of teaching mathematics to students of all ages, achieving remarkable results. Oh, you are phenomenal. And he's also the author of the book, and I must highly recommend this book because he used the techniques in this book to actually do my code. He'll probably mention that each and every one of us has a genetic code, a unique genetic code. And if you know your code, then you can walk in your purpose. If you don't know your code, you kind of meander your way through life, and it's a bit of a hit or miss as to whether or not you achieve your purpose. And, once you know your purpose, then, you'll understand why you're here. And if you don't know your purpose and if you don't know your code, get the book, the Genetic Odyssey book, the Human Code. Hugh spelled Hue -man, the Human Code. Okay, so I'll post that title in the comment section so that you've all got that. Yeah, so, and my code was spot on. Yeah, he told me who I am. He even told me, the side of me that you don't see, what I'm like underneath and, inside and behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. Oh, my days. And, our code is linked to the cosmos, our stars, our date of birth, the moon, the this, the that. Family, we are all uniquely and beautifully made, and we all have a purpose. Anyway, I've rattled on long enough. My apologies. Sometimes one or two of my guests will say, I wish you'd get out the way and start rattling and let the speaker come on. So I'm going to do that right now. We are honored. We are delighted. Just want to rise up Carol for her donation of $10 there. Thank you so much. Any money I get, I'm going to be donating it to the school that King Maponga wants to build. So thank you so much for that. But without further ado, let me introduce to you our beautiful brother, Horatio, as he comes to you on the Sister Shanice Show platform.
Wow. Sister Shanice, thank you very much for that amazing introduction. Before I start my presentation, I probably want to apologize beforehand to those who are offended by the term pyramids for whatever reason, because it's a language, and I understand that mathematics is a language as well. Sister Shanice eloquently put it when she mentioned the fact that we have come to recognize that term, rightly or wrongly, as such, and because we're trying to get a certain message across to the masses who probably understand that term, hence the reason why it will be in this presentation. But as I say, I apologize to those who may find it a little bit offensive. Alrighty, so this particular presentation, before I go into dive down the rabbit hole, and I use some terminology sometimes because I play around with mathematics. There are terms that I associate to certain things because it's all about memory. So again, I apologize beforehand. Let me get into the nitty-gritty. Now, we have a very powerful tool to hand as a people. The origin of the numerical system we use today was originated by Africa and has been developed further by many ancient cultures which are based on the same underlying principles. Now, there is evidence to, to suggest that some known numerical systems were developed in Africa that we don't even know about. Well, if we go back to the Ishanga bone, which was discovered is what now the Democratic Republic of Congo, and that was a tool that dates back around and beyond 20,000 BCE, even further possibly, and contains numerous marks that represent, the origin from the Italian system, which was a different system at the time. There are systems based on the hieroglyphic symbols, and that was used for many purposes, ranging from the trade to astronomy. Our ancestors developed a system of mathematical notations, and this included symbols and fractions, and they were among the first cultures to use mathematical concepts like geometry and algebra. These are our babies. Now, other African cultures, such as our brothers, European brothers, they developed complex systems of divination and spiritual belief that also involved mathematical principles. These points were touched on earlier in Sister Shanice's show on the Big G. Now, these systems often included the use of divinationary tools like the Ifa oracle, which required the use of complex numerical calculations. Let's be very clear. And so my point being, before I go down into this presentation, is that our ancestors have played a major role in the development of numerical systems. There is evidence to suggest that some of the earliest known numerical systems were developed before, before dates were even put in place. Before dates were even put in place. So how powerful is mathematics? How powerful is it? It's an incredibly powerful tool that underpins much of modern science, technology, and engineering. And it provides a precise language for describing the relationships between objects and phenomena, and allows us to make accurate predictions about the behavior of complex systems. So let's dive down the rabbit hole.
Okay, shall I pull up the presentation now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Do I move my screen along, or do you run it?
You do.
Okay, fine, perfect. Alrighty, so let's right now, as I mentioned, we're looking at the Great Pyramids of Giza. And I want to ponder here for a moment, just for a moment. Now, the pyramids of Egypt, including the Great Pyramids of Giza, demonstrate a high level of mathematical precision and engineering skills. The ancient Egyptians used simple mathematical concepts such as geometry, ratio, and what we call today Pythagorean theorem to design and construct these mathematical structures. The sides of the pyramids are closely aligned with each cardinal point, and we're going to break this down a little bit later. The base is nearly a perfect square, and the ratio of the height to the length to each side is close to the golden ratio. We're going to look at these a little bit later. Additionally, the pyramids contain several features, such as the Grand Galley and the King's Chambers, that demonstrate a deep understanding of mathematics and its application to cultural design. We have to understand what's happening here, family. Now, it's not clear exactly what cosmological knowledge went into building the pyramids, because the construction of the pyramids predate recorded history. We're just looking at dates that have been given to us. However, it is believed that our ancestors had a complex cosmological system that influenced many aspects of their lives, including the design and the structure of these monumental structures. Now, one aspect of the ancient ancestral cosmology was the belief in the afterlife and the importance of preparing for the pharaohs and the other high-ranking officials. Let me go back one. Hold on, we're not there yet. Now, the precise orientation of the pyramids was also believed to have that cosmological significance, which I don't fully understand. But as they were aligned with the cardinal directions and the possibility, and that was with certain celestial bodies. Now, it sounds a little bit foreign, but when you apply the maths to it, it makes clear sense. And we're going to get to that. Another aspect of this ancient system was the belief system. Our ancestors believed that the universe was created, destroyed, and reborn in a continuous cycle. Now, this belief may have influenced the pyramid shape, as the pyramid's triangle shape may have symbolized the cylindrical nature of the universe. That's a possibility. Now, the ancient Egyptians, our ancestors, had a complex system for astrology, and it was influenced by the placements of the pyramids. Our ancestors believed that the celestial bodies, such as the sun and the stars, they all had important symbolic and mystical significance. And that's why these pyramids, the pyramids of Giza, they're aligned with the constellation Orion. And that also may have been a special significance in our ancestors' times. So let me move on. Now, I'm looking at the our ancestral placements back in time, and at the height of our time, our ancestors, our empire spread as far north as Syria and as far south as today's Sudan. And this is where we're talking about in Egypt. But long before it was an empire, ancient Egypt was a series of small independent city-states that were located along the Nile River. Now, I'm going down this road because I need us to understand as a people where we're coming from, how we think, and how we made things happen, how we gained understanding. Now, the city-states were divided into two regions and named according to the flow of the Nile. Upper Egypt in the south was upstream, and Lower Egypt in the north downstream. Now, by about, I'd say, 3100 BC, as quoted, the two halves united and created one state, which lasted for millenniums. And that period is equal to 1,000 years. So it's often used to refer to a span of 1,000. So millennia is 1,000, millenniums is continuation of that. Gregorian calendar started from January the 1st of the year 1 and ended on December 31st of the year 1000. And the term is commonly used to describe a similar span of time starting from the year 2001 and ending on December 31st of the year 3000. Alrighty. Oops. Can you see my next slide?
Yes,
Can you hear
we're
me?
seeing your next slide.
Oh,
Sorry, I had
fantastic.
myself on mute. Yeah. Three major periods.
Okay, fantastic. The two major periods, as you can see, we have here, we have the Old Kingdom, we have the Middle Kingdom, and we have the New Kingdom. And within that time span, from 2575 BC, sorry, from to 2130 BC, all the way to 1075 BC, within that period of time, you had two major periods. And the first one was, as you can see, and the second one very clearly, as you can see. And it's important to note, there was at the time, the regions of these civilizations divided. I'm here to do the maths, but I just want to give you a pictorial understanding of the things that our ancestors in this region went through during this time. Now, guiding our people were a succession of approximately 300 rulers, often referred to as pharaohs. Now, in ancient Egypt, it was never really the ruler's formal title, but it became synonymous in modern times. And that's down to the scriptures, the Hebrew Bible, and books such like. Now, these rulers were not always men, nor Egyptian, which is something I found quite interesting. But they were considered protectors of the people and served as a divine liaison between humanity and hundreds of gods they worshipped. Now, contrary to popular belief, some of the Egyptians' most celebrated and influential rulers were women. And among them were Sobekneferu, Hatshepsut, and Cleopatra. Now, while they were the early women believed to have ruled Egypt, Sobekneferu is the first female pharaoh for which there is confirmed proof. In the research that I have done, that is the proof that has come to light. Now, although this pharaoh may have previously assumed the role as pharaoh, Hatshepsut was the only female ruler to rule in a time of prosperity. Queen Hatshepsut is one of the most powerful black queens and was the fifth pharaoh of Egypt. Hatshepsut married her half-brother at the age of 12 and became queen. Now, after the rulers passed away, ancient Egyptians believed that they then became gods. Some of them assumed positions that was not rightfully theirs. Irrespective, there were many who were following the right path, and those rulers prepared for their journey into the afterlife, and they constructed the tombs, including the great pyramids of Giza and the other mausoleums in the valley of the valley of the kings. And many of the rulers used, they filled their tombs with all sorts of stuff that they wanted to carry into the afterlife, which included gold, jewelry, and all sorts that was special to them. Okay, let's next slide. Okay, and as we can see now, you can see the way that the structure of the galley is built. It's geared towards taking the spiritual realm of the pharaoh to the next level. And as we can see that, we start to see the structure on the side of the pyramid, because we're now going to start breaking down into the mathematics. But I wanted to just go on a little journey just to see how we get to where we get to so far. So as we can see that the deceased corpse would be embalmed and wrapped in hundreds of yards of linen and placed inside the tomb so that it could be reanimated in the afterlife. Okay, so let's go to the next screen. All right, now our ancestors created a measuring unit, and it was called the cubit. Now, this cubit was a unit of measurement used by our ancestors for construction and other purposes. It was based on the length of the pharaoh's forearm from the elbow to the tip of the middle finger. Now, the cubit was a standardized measurement, and the different rulers may have had slightly different cubits. However, the most commonly used cubit was around 52.5 centimeters, which if you convert that into inches, you will get 20.67 inches. Now, the cubit was divided into smaller units, including the digit. Now, this was the width of a finger and was about 1.85 centimeters, which is in inches 0.73. And then we had the palm. Now, this was the width of the palm, and it was about 7.4 centimeters. Converted into inches is 2.91. The hand, this was 4 digits or 1/4 of a cubit and was about 18.5 centimeters. And in inches, that's 7.28. We also had the span, and this was the width of the outstretched hand and was about 22.2 centimeters. I'm giving you all of this because I want you to visualize how this all came about. Now, as I mentioned, the ancient Egyptians used the cubit extensively in construction and in architecture, including the buildings of temples, pyramids, and other monumental structures. Now, the precise measurement of the cubit allowed ancient Egyptians to construct structures that were aligned and proportionally correct. The use of the cubit also helped to ensure that different parts of a structure fit together correctly. And even when they were constructed at different times or by different teams of workers, they were using the same cubit. And at every full moon, the cubic stick had to be brought to the royal cubic master and compared to it. So it had to be compared with the cubic that sits in the royal palace. Now, failure to do so was punishment by death. So this was serious business. Now, with this standardization, the uniformity of length, they achieved amazing accuracy. Because under them conditions, nobody wants to die. So they want to make sure that they bring back their cubic sticks. They want to make sure that they're following the right, because 1 out or 2 out or a number out is going to cause a problem. Alrighty, so the Great Pyramid of Giza is constructed with sides of 440 cubics, which is 230.364 meters. Now, using cubic sticks, the builders were within 11.4 centimeters accuracy. That's better than 0.05%. Now, the King's Chamber is one of the internal chambers of the Great Pyramid and is located at the center of the pyramid, above the pyramid's main entrance. And it's a rectangular room with precise measurements that suggest that it was carefully planned and structured. Now, the dimension of the King's Chamber, the length was 10.47 meters, which was 34.4 feet. The width was 5.22 meters, which was 17.1 feet. And the height was 5.81 meters, which was 19.1 feet. Now, these dimensions are very close to the ratio of 2 to 1 to the square root of 3. Now, that is related to the mathematical concept of the golden ratio, which we're going to come to. The golden ratio is a proportion that is found in many natural and human forms and is believed to be aesthetically pleasing, so they say. Now, the King's Chamber is structured entirely of red granite blocks, and its walls, floors, and ceilings are made of large multi-ton granite slabs. The chambers also contain sarcophagus, which is believed to have been intended to hold the pharaoh to whom the pyramid was built. Now, the precise measurement of the King's Chamber suggests that the Egyptians had a sophisticated understanding of mathematics and geometry. Now, if on the slide, we've got the 24-hour to the day lineage here. And I mentioned, when I was talking about the King's Chamber, I mentioned the fact that it had 24 blocks to it. The dimension of the King's Chamber, the length was 10.47 meters, the width was 5.22, and the height was 5.81. And that gave me in feet 34, 17, and 19. And I mentioned that the dimension is close to the ratio of 2 to 1 to the square root of 3. So we're going to go down and look at how it connects with time and whatever else we come across. That's not the right one to go. What one am I on? Okay. Trying to. Now, as I mentioned in the previous slide, we measured time by combining mathematics with astronomy. And that's how they established a 24-hour division to the day. And they created a solar calendar, which was the first dating system in history, featured 365 days in 1 year. And as with all great empires, Egypt came to an end, which was the last slide. And they were eventually conquered by a series of invasions, which included those by the Persian Empire in the 4th century BC and the Roman Empire around the 30 BC. Now, not many civilizations can claim a lifespan of over 3,000 years, let alone one that made vast cultural contributions that still resonate in modern time. Now, ancient Egyptians, with our linguistic and mathematical innovations, spiritual, religion, and extensive political and military might, we set a high standard for all civilizations that followed. So we have to be very clear about this. So what mathematical messages did we leave behind in those great pyramids of Giza? Now, when we look at this building here, now, as mentioned previously, the Great Pyramid, the Pyramid Khufu, is the largest and oldest of the 3 pyramids. It was also the tallest man-made structure globally for 3,800 years. But there is also plenty of mass behind these great wonders of the ancient world. Now, the cubit, as I mentioned, is the first recorded unit of length. The pyramid's perimeter is 365.24, which is the number of days in a year. Hence the reason why we had the calendar, the 24-hour calendar, just to give you a little glimpse of how numbers bring things to life. If you take the pyramid's perimeter and divide it by its height, it will give you pi. And pi is 3.1416, and the numbers continue and the sequence never ever repeats. Now, the King's Chamber, the measurement was based off of the so-called Pythagorean theorem, 345. Now, we know these measurements were here long before Pythagoras was even thought of. So he could not have even created the concept. But as we can see here, the perimeter, 365, there are 365 days in the year. We have pi, which is 3.14, and we have the right angle triangle, which is what they call Pythagorean theorem, where you have the 3, 4, and 5. And we also have the height of the pyramid and times 2%, times 2, and we're going to go down that road. Right, now, the position of the Great Pyramids is the most accurately aligned structure in existence and faces true north with only 3 of a 60th degree of error. The position of the North Pole makes over time that the pyramid was exactly aligned at one time. Now, the Pyramid of Giza is also the center of landmass. The Great Pyramid is located at the center of the landmass of the entire Earth. The Great Pyramid was also built in harmony with mathematics. Now, mathematically speaking, the Great Pyramid is perfect. Its elevation encodes three of the most important constants in mathematics: pi, phi, and Euler. They use the term E. And we're going to look a little deeper into those a little bit later. Now, for the pyramids, various types of encoding can be verified. Architectural coding, the design and structure techniques used in building the pyramids, such as the use of the ramps, the cranes, and the blocks of stone. Mathematical encoding, the use of geometry, proportions, and the measurements in the designs of the pyramids, such as the application of the so-called Pythagorean theorem and the golden ratio. There's astronomical encoding, the alignments of the pyramids with the celestial bodies, such as the stars and the sun. And this was all used to track the passage of time and the seasons. There's symbolic coding, the use of symbols such as hieroglyphics to convey spiritual and cultural belief, as well as to commemorate the lives of pharaohs and other important figures. Sister Shanice mentioned earlier, I did her number. We live in a matrix. And that's not to put the frighteners on anybody, but we live in a system. You can give it whatever term you want to give it. But the fact remains, if you have for example, a Windows system, then you install Windows applications so it works. And if you have an Apple system, you would put Apple. You wouldn't put Windows systems on an Apple because it just wouldn't work. It would malfunction. And so as a unit in a system, you have to understand what your unit is. So then you can apply your purpose to your why. I digress slightly. Now, it's also got cultural encoding, which is the representation of social and political power, as well as the beliefs and values of our ancestors society, through the designs and the decorations inside our pyramids. Now, I'm taking a deep dive. Remove some of the fancy pictures because that was to give you a visual. I now want to share with you the measurements inside the pyramids so you can understand this pi and Euler and all these, what they term as constants. And I'm going to break them down. So how do we explain the constants in the pyramids? Now, the constants in the pyramids refer to the mathematical and geometrical ratios that are consistent in the design and the construction of the pyramids. Now, some of the most well-known constants in the pyramids are, we have the golden ratio. Now, this mathematical constant is represented by the Greek letter phi. Phi. The golden ratio is phi. Phi. So on my diagram, anywhere you see phi, you know we are referring to the golden ratio. And that was used in the design of the pyramids to achieve balance and harmony in the structure. This constant appears in the mathematics that our students use at school. but they were originally created within the pyramids, because all of this came well before any school literature, just so that we're clear, and before any of those who are mentioned in the school literature, just so that we are clear. Now, we also have pi, pi. Wherever you see that in the diagram, this mathematical constant was used to calculate the circumference of circles, which was important in determining the size and the shape of the pyramids. The Pythagorean theorem, because I don't have another term, but that's the one we understand. This mathematical principle was used to determine the height and the angles of the pyramids, as well as ensure the accuracy of the corners and sides. So if you can see the diagram, you can see there are many triangles in there. Many triangles. And some of the numbers repeat because the angles and the lengths and the sides are the same. That gives you the accuracy. And units of measure. Now, our ancestors used a unit of measure known as the cubic, which was based on the length of the pharaoh's arm from elbow to foot tips to design and construct the pyramids. So, family, what I want us to understand is the cubic that the pharaoh made sure that the workers had was what built the pyramids. The measurements, that is what they used to gain the accuracy. And this is things that we can all research and look up and try and counter it if possible. Now, these constants were used to ensure the accuracy and the precision of the pyramids and their consistent application in different pyramids across Egypt. And this is a testament to the advanced level of mathematical and geometrical knowledge of the Egyptians, our ancestors. Whatever term that they want to apply, that is down to them. That's all about dividing. Now, the height and the base. The Great Pyramid has a height of 146.5 meters. And a base of 230 meters. Before I go into that, along the side, I've got terms like gamma, pi, tau, all of these terms. I am going to break some of them down just so that you understand exactly what they are, because I know to some this may seem a little bit complex, but my thing is just for you to understand how does numbers work. You've got the golden ratio when you look at the circle, which has a 360 dimension, and it shows you all of the angles, and it shows you how you have 360 equals 0 and 1 turn. 360 minus 137 is equal to 223, which is pi, which is 5, sorry. And you can also, so you can see it also from a global perspective, from a circle perspective, as well as from the pyramid perspective. That's the aim of this diagram here. And the height, as I said, the height and the base, the height is 146.5 meters. The base and the length is 230.4 meters. The ratio of the height of the base length is approximately equal to the mathematical constant we know as pi, which is approximately 3.14. This again suggests that our ancestors were aware of the concept of pi. The slope angles. The slope angle of the Great Pyramid is approximately 51.8 degrees. This angle is very close to the angle of the inclination of the Earth's axis, which is 23.5 degrees. And the angle between the equator and the meridian is 90. If you look on the globe, it's 90 minus 51.8, And if you look on the globe, you can see where 90 is. And if you deduct 51.8, you will get 32.8 degrees. Now, some researchers suggest that this alignment was intentional and had astronomical significance. We have the inner chamber, which is the greater pyramids, and that contains internal chambers, including the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, and the grand galley. Now, the dimension of these chambers are also mathematically precise. For example, the king's chamber is a rectangular box with a dimension of 10.5 meters by 5.2 meters by 5.8 meters. Now, these dimensions are related to the golden ratio, which is a mathematical ratio found in nature and art. So, just want to touch on this point. The angle between the equator and the meridian at a given point on the Earth's surface is known as the latitude of that point. And the latitude is measured in degrees, with no degrees being the equator, and 90 degrees being the north or south pole. The meridian at a given point is an imaginary line that passes through the north and the south poles and the point in question and is perpendicular to the equator. So you can see the line that goes directly through. Try to make it as visual as possible. The angles between the meridian and the equator is equal to the latitude of the point. So, for example, the latitude of, say, New York City is approximately 40.7 degrees north. This means that the angle between the equator and the meridian at New York City is also 40.7 degrees. Now, latitude is an important geographic coordinate because it's used to locate position on the Earth's surface. It's used in conjunction with the longitude, which measures the angle between the point and the prime meridian, which runs from the North Pole to the South Pole. And that's passing through the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, London. My point being is to how these pyramids are strategically placed. And when you do the measurements, in some instances, you are only out by 0.05. This cannot be a coincidence. So I just wanted to put this across, and some of these terms, I will be breaking them down just a little bit later. Alrighty, so these encodings can be verified with the following equations. The accuracy of the percentage for each equation is given in the parentheses, and the parentheses are simply just the brackets. So the brackets you see on the screen, and I'm hoping you can see my screen and the numbers on there. Sister Shanice, is my screen flowing?
Yes, it is.
All right, fantastic. All righty. So if we looked in the pyramids, we saw that figure 51.85. Now, 4 times 51.85 will give you 76.30 degrees. So Euler's formula, the Euler term, is 99.998% accurate. Now, when you use tan, and we use tan in the schools, and we use it in industry when we are looking at trying, if you have an angle and you only have one side, how can you find out what the other side is? Well, in trigonometry, they have a unit called in trigonometry, they have tan, cos, and sine. And the different ones are used to find out different parts of the triangle, whether it be the angle or one side or another side. And the triangle doesn't have to be a right-sided triangle or right-angle triangle. Okay, so as you can see, tan, when you put 51.85 degree and click tan, you get 4 divided by pi, which is another constant which sits in the pyramid, and it's 99.99% accurate. Cos 51.85, which is equal to 1 over omega, which is 99.95% accurate. And sine, again, you can see the accuracy as we go along. So this is not a coincidence, family, because even with the most technological tools, we don't get this accuracy. All right. So, as I said, tan, cos, and sine are 3 of the basic trigonomic functions. Trigonometry is a branch of mathematics that deals with the relationship between the sides and the angles of the triangle. The tangent of an angle in a right angle triangle is equal to the length of the side opposite the angle divided by the length of the adjacent side. So in other words, tan is what is known as theta. I'm only showing you the Great Pyramid of Giza measurements so that you can see where we spoke about the height, and it gives you a transparent view, and it's giving you the base, which is 230.4 meters, which gave you 756 feet wide. This is the wrong one. Where are we going? Okay. Okay, I think my slides have gone doolally. Okay. Now, before I go any further, because my slides have gone a bit doolally, I want to just break down the constants that were in the, if I could just go back somewhat. Right. If I could just break down some of the constants that were in the pyramids that I mentioned earlier. Now, Euler, as you can see, Euler number is known as the mathematical constant E, and is a fundamental mathematical constant that appears in many areas of mathematics and science. It is named after the Swiss mathematician Leonhard Euler, and he wasn't even here. But he first came across this particular formula in the 18th century. Now, this number is often referred to as the mathematical constant because of its mathematical and scientific application. It is a unique number that arises naturally in a wide range of mathematical and scientific contexts, including calculus, differential equations, probability theory, and possibly more. In particular, the number E is the base of a natural logarithm, which is a fundamental mathematical function used in many areas of mathematics and science. In addition, the number E has some important and interesting mathematical properties. For example, the value of E is an irrational number. Now, this means that its decimal representation goes on forever and ever without ever repeating. This number is also a transcendental number, which means that it's not the root of any non-zero polynomial number. Now, these properties make E a unique and important number in the world of mathematics because it's implemented within, again, code, language. I mentioned that the Great Pyramids equal 1 to 43,200 from the Earth's mean. I mentioned the longitude. These all tie in with what we see here within the pyramids. All of these are the language that our ancestors used when they built the pyramids using the cubic stick. I've gone back to this because I want us to really visualize and understand that all of these constants, and constants are things that their formula remains the same. Gamma will always be 1.5714. Tau will always be 0.28. All of these constants are what we use within the mathematics that we use in the classroom. Now, these terms are not the terms that we generally knew them as, because everything was measured in cubit. But over time, people have claimed these amazing discoveries for the self, and they've put their name on it. And so what's happening now is we see all of these signs, which are now used a lot in the sciences, but also to shroud our vision, to cloud our understanding. Many of these constants sit within what many of our oppressors and the systems that they work with, because they have been able to understand the power of numbers, and when you apply formulas together and when they work together in harmony, what you can get. Now, I mentioned gamma, phi, tau, pi, the mile, which is pi 1.43, square roots. These are all constants, as I say, that are in the pyramids that sit within our textbooks, is that our children are being bamboozled with today. But if we are able to encourage our students to look at the pyramids and not just look at the physical structure, but try and see, well, how were they built? I know many of us adults don't do that, so why would our students do that? But there are so much information in the pyramids. We spoke about our ancestors and our ifas. Now, many of what they do is based off of a number system that they created, that the terminology that has now changed, which you can see on my screen. Omega, Alpha, they're all up there somewhere. I'm not sure where Alpha is, but they're all there somewhere. When our ifas work with divination, and they're using beads or other elements, they're using units of mathematics that they originated, that built the pyramids. So it's fair to say that our ancestors were certainly by no means these whatever terms they want to give us. We were masters at our trade. We had access to a higher mathematical knowledge, which many of us are still trying to discover, because there are still more hidden constants in there that we are just not aware of. We haven't reached that level yet. We've only scratched the surface. But this is the mathematics that is in our books at school, that is in the system that we work in and live in. And it's really important that we understand these constants and what they actually mean. I had a breakdown of all of them, but I'm not sure what's happened to that slide. I'm sorry. Cubic. I mentioned about the speed of light, and the Great Pyramids, the longitude, the coordinate is exactly the same as the north coordinate plus the quotation of pi, which is 3.14. It goes on, and if you divide that by Euler, which is the constant 0 point, which equals blah 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 blah, you are now diving into the realms of the speed of light, because the speed of light is 29,979,245 miles per second, which is equal to the speed of light, which is c. And in my diagram back there, or moving forward, no. I'm sorry, my slides have gone doolally. Well, the latitude of the Great Pyramids is 29.979245 north degrees, and that is equal to the latitude of the Great Pyramids. So we're seeing mathematically on Earth what is going on in the cosmos. The speed of light is exactly the same. Is this a fluke? I don't think so. Next, if you add pi and divide by Euler constant, and that was in the diagram that I showed you, and I know there was a lot of numbers in there, right? 31,134,973. That is equal to C plus pi over E. So 31,134,973 degrees Euler is equal to the longitude of the Great Pyramids. All of this, these figures are coming from the pyramids. And we're aligning it with things like the speed of light and the positioning of the pyramids. Not sure what to do. I think I went off on a tangent here, but it's still in here. Now, the tropical year of the calendar, the length of a base side of the pyramid is 9,131 pyramid inches. And then, as you can see on my slide here, it gives you all of the relevant detail. I don't really want to bore you too much with numbers, because I know sometimes when one is going on about numbers, one can tend to nod off. But when we look at the visuals on all of these, the 365.24 was the numbers we got back earlier in the slide. And that is one complete orbit around the sun, right? Which is 365 days in a year. Right. And then 365 days is approximately equal to a quarter half day short of a complete orbit, the common year. And the leap year is approximately plus 3/4 days over a complete orbit. So you can see the cubit, which has built the pyramids, was amazingly accurate to line up with all of these things externally. Now, for today's system, they would need to have satellites in place to get this level of accuracy. Our ancestors had access to a higher mathematical understanding to be able to align the pyramids, get the measurements inside the pyramids of the days of the year using the cubit. I've got to take a glass of water for a moment, excuse me.
No, that's okay. I'm just absorbing all of this information here. It's just incredible. It really is. It's like just wow, wow, wow. To think that, you could use the length of a pharaoh's arm from his elbow to the tip of his forefinger. I mean, that must have been some special length arm. What if his arm was a bit shorter or a bit longer? Would all of these calculations and computations have worked in the same way? I wonder.
Well,
Wow.
for the pharaoh of the time, that measurement would have been constant for the period of his reign or her reign, because that measurement would have lasted, but the cubit wouldn't have been a lot much bigger or smaller. It would have deviated very, very slightly. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah, please continue.
Right. Now, the tropical year, one complete orbit around the sun, is approximately 365.24 days, and that can vary 30 minutes. Now, the ratio of the lengths of the Grand Galley to the solid diagonal of the King's Chamber times 100 equals the number of days in a tropical year. And the measurement, the numbers are there. So, and that is equal to 365.242, and that's accurate to eight digits. So you can see the accuracy that was in place in building these amazing monuments. Now, I've looking at the mean distance to the sun, and I know it's a lot of writing, but I just kind of wanted to. I'm talking about the mean distance to the sun. Well, the height of the pyramid times 10 to the power of 9 represents the mean ratio of the Earth's orbit around the sun, abbreviated as AU. It's there for you to see. I don't necessarily want to just drown you all with reading all of this, but I just wanted to share with you the fact that when one is able to do their research, you can make the numbers add up, which makes things tangible, which makes things true. When people say things that the alignment this and the cosmos that, you can use mathematics to give you a level of understanding to make things more tangible. Now, if one is interested in the mean distance to the sun, the mean distance to the moon, the sun's radius, the Earth's polar radius, and we should be interested in it because it's part of who we are, it's part of why we're here. So we need to understand, because with all that's going on around the world, you've got all of these other so-called systems trying to change the system that we live in by using technology. So I'm giving this information because I think it's really important that not only our young ones, but our elders also embrace numbers and try and get others to embrace it as well. You can do it on a very small level, and it will open, the doors will open and take you to areas that you could not imagine. When truth appears, you have to align yourself. When truth is not there, you wander around aimlessly. Numbers gives you truth. Numbers don't lie. The people behind the numbers lie. but numbers never lie. So when one gives you numbers, it's important to take down the numbers and apply them yourself. Because 2 plus 2, wherever you go, will always be 4. So even though it seems like a lot of numbers, you can break them down into simple numbers. I showed you what Euler is and what makes up Euler. One can look that up for themselves. You can Google these things. Omega, you hear these terms, they're just titles for mathematical formulas that are used. In many of the secret societies, they study this stuff because they know how powerful it is. But it's all about alignment. We're always talking about aligning ourselves, but we want to shy away from numbers. Well, without numbers, you cannot align yourself, because then everything is based on rhetoric. And I say that in a humble manner, because numbers has humbled me. It's made me understand that when whatever someone says, you can always apply maths to it. In mathematics, you get worded problems. You can convert those words into numbers and symbols and then break it down until you get an answer, a mathematical answer. And that's what this is showing you here today. The mean distance to the sun. It's aligned with the height of the pyramids and the time, times it by. It's all there on the screen, so I'm not going to reel it off. Where was I? Now, what is the mean distance? Because I spoke about mean. I don't know. What is the mean distance? What is it? Now, the arithmetic term of the mean of the maximum and minimum distance of a celestial body. So you've got a circle there, celestial body, and you can see pi, you have vector q, and you have L, which is the ray from pi to q. And you know that would be the same on the other side. The lengths would be the same. And you have, from what they're saying is, the distance from the celestial body, so the satellite or the secondary star, from its primary distance, the property created by the space between the two objects of point. So that is what is meant by the mean distance from a point to another point, the mean distance in between. And so you can see that in this diagram. And says, how do you calculate the mean distance? It's in 3 steps. You find the mean of all values, because all of those points along those points, they have a value. Once you measure it up, it will have a value. You find the distance of each value from the mean, and you subtract the mean from each value, ignoring minus signs. And then what the answer you get, you find the mean of those distance. And if you look, you can Google, it's pretty straightforward how to find the mean. The mean is the average, and there are a number of average. You've got mean, median, and another one, but they're all terms for average. Once we understand this, we then can convert rhetoric into tangibles, because sometimes on you get a news flash or something, it tells you that blah 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 blah, there was an average, what have you. Well, there are usually 3 ways you can find the average. So you have to look at, well, who's putting out the information, and do they want us on their side? So whatever average is going to give them more leverage, that is the average they have used to come up with their answer when they tell you about a certain average. Because there are 3 different types of averages, 3 different ways to get it, and they will give you 3 different answers. So you have to understand, we're looking for the mean average here. And that is a natural average, which gives you the truth. The other averages sway depending on the number of people involved and all that sort of stuff. Alrighty. So I think I've done that. I think I've done that. Where have I gone? All right. This was the golden ratio in mathematics. How you would go about phi. If you have a is equal to 1, which is equal to b plus c. B is equal to 0.618 and C is equal to 0.382. So if you wanted to calculate phi, for example, phi, the golden ratio, you would have A over B, and A over B would be 1 over 0.618, and that would be equal to B over C. And B over C is 0.618 over 0.382. And that will give you 1.618. And that is what is termed as phi. In my diagram that I showed you, that is what is termed as the golden ratio. So if you ever hear that term, this is the makeup of the golden ratio. And it's what's used in we've probably heard of Fibonacci, the Fibonacci sequence. Well, this is it. Fibonacci sequence. He's taken the golden ratio, and where now you can get a natural order of sequence of numbers when you look in how the plants and the petals on the plants they grow and the lines on certain insects, and it's all to do with the golden ratio and Fibonacci sequence. Alrighty. So the Earth and the Moon are phi relationship, forming a triangular base on that golden ratio. So we have the radius of the Earth, and so you've got the dimension, which is 6,378.10. Proportion to Earth is equal to 1, which is the ratio to 1. So that's a ratio. A ratio, when you look, for example, on a tin, the back of a tin for, say you've got, I don't know, baked beans, something, and you turn it around and you look and it shows you all of the different ingredients is in there. Well, all of those different ingredients, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, make up that tin. All of those things are the different ratios. So that's what they call a ratio. So you have these different elements, but that makes up that one thing. So the ratio to of the Earth at the Moon is 6,378.10 to 1. The Earth proportion. So for every one, it would be 6,300. That's what we call the ratio. And so the mathematical expression would be A. That would be in that phi that I showed in the last slide. That would be the A of phi. Okay? And the radius of the Moon is 1,735.97. And the ratio is 0.272. Now, to find that, you would have to do A over B. And B is going to be A plus Moon, which is Earth plus Moon. And this just gives you the measurements, which is the same exact measurements as used in the pyramids. Is this a freak of nature? Who does this? Our ancestors were so far advanced, it wasn't funny. These terms that you see are terms that have been pasted over our language, the cubic, and all the terms went with it. The numbers were always there. the terms were not there. And it's the terms that they use now and the signs and the symbols that they use now is what is bamboozling us as a people. Because the few of us that know and understand this are not sharing it. Many of us are working for those who are oppressing us. And they're probably afraid that the little that they think they know, if they share it with others, then they may not be one of the chosen, the supposed chosen. I don't know. But this knowledge has to be shared, not necessarily in this capacity, in whatever capacity, the importance of numbers. The maths that we are currently learning at school is not sitting us in good stead because it's not truth. It's made up. They create these stories, and behind these stories, they throw our signs and symbols behind them. And so we never really understand. Because we don't feel a connection. We don't really want to feel a connection. It's a bit like going into your local Nike store. You take your child in there to buy the latest Nike. And the latest Nike trainer has an Iceland logo on it. And it's in an Iceland box or one of those box. You're going to walk straight past it because you don't recognize it. Well, that is what they've done to us with regards to mathematics. And that's the fact. In the system, they won't share it like this. Because if we get that understanding that our people applied a superior knowledge that many are studying in the universities today that they've rebranded and said that we have to go to their university and study to gain a certificate. If we knew that, we would then be in a position to bypass this system. But we have to know it in mass, not sprinkled about one on one here. No, that is not going to work. So by me sharing with you today all of these different connections, and I know it may seem a little bit aligned. Some of my slides were not where they were supposed to be. I apologize about that. But I hope you got the essence of the importance of mathematics, and any language that you come across is underpinned by mathematics. And if it's not, you have to then question it. You must question it. I go back to the coding that Sister Shanice mentioned earlier. What you see on this screen here is a code. It's a code. Because with this level of understanding, you now know how to where you want to position satellites and all this sort of stuff. Our ancestors were able to mark this out very clearly without supposed technological tools and whatever else. They had access to a higher knowledge that they don't want us to know. And the only way we're really going to know is if we study the maths. Because when we study the maths and we study our ancient buildings and any ancient findings, that is where the truth comes out. When you apply the numbers, how long it was, where it was found, when you apply numbers to it. This is all to do with where the position of the moon is in relation to the earth. Some may find it pretty boring, but the facts remains that alignment keeps us alive. Because if that positioning was any further either way, we wouldn't exist. So this is heavy stuff. And the fact that you find these numbers in the pyramids, it makes me take a breath or two. Because now you want to find out what's really going on. So the presentation today is really all about giving you an understanding of mathematics from a ancestral perspective. All the numbers that we shy away from are numbers that are within us. This number, what makes it so interesting? It's a number that goes by many names. It's the golden number, 1.618. You'll find it in art, geometry, design, theology, life, cosmology, beauty, and mathematics. And in more. If any of those areas is where you sit, you're going to find that number in there. And it will open things up. It goes by many names: the golden number, the golden proportion, the golden mean, the golden section, divine proportion, and divine section. This particular number, it kind of came a bit to a head after the movie The Da Vinci Code, because I remember watching that. And it was a quest for how pi was brought even more into the mainstream of pop or popular culture. And it was that movie, because it had so much hype behind it, this number came to prominence even more amongst the younger audience. But this is a very powerful number. It's a number that you don't take lightly, because it relates to the beginning of time. When you look in the pyramids, you see where it resides. I've put some little fun facts at the top here, because I know that, as I mentioned, as I said, maths can be sometimes a little bit off-putting, and depending on who's dropping it and in what capacity. But for me, it's just such a fascinating unit. I could talk about it all night, but there's also fun elements about maths, and there's a few here that are some fun facts about the pyramids, which I'm not sure if I mentioned in my presentation, but they're there that we can all look at, observe, and also we can research ourselves. Now, the pyramid is estimated to have around 2,300,000 stone blocks that weigh from 2 to 30, but those 30 tons can go up to about 80. As I mentioned, there are even some blocks that weigh over 50 tons. So you have to put all of these things into context, because otherwise, how would you couldn't even fathom how they even started to build the pyramids. So you have to start putting numbers to it. Now, the pyramid of Menkaure, the pyramid Khafre, and the Great Pyramids are precisely aligned with the constellation of the Orion, 2 prior precession periods. The interior temperature of the pyramids is constant and equal to the average temperature of the Earth's 20 degrees Celsius. Now, some scholars many white scholars will disagree with that particular point, but we have to do the numbers. I'm only interested in the numbers. Let's do the numbers. The outer mantle was composed of 144 casting stones. 144,000 casting stones. The accuracy of 1/100th of an inch. Not even with the most technical tools today do we get that accuracy. Each slab 15 tons each. The cornerstone foundation of the pyramids have a ball and socket construction. In the animated slide I showed you, where you could see through the pyramids, It had the ball and socket construction capable of dealing with heat expansion and earthquake. It goes to tell you how far advanced they thought and were able to build things that would last the test of time. Because even today we build things and it doesn't last, but this lasts. Those are some little fun facts, and I just want to thank you for allowing me to get my slides across, even though it may not have been in the order that I wanted it to. But thank you very much for listening.
We thank you so much, Pyratio. Wow. What a presentation. It was absolutely phenomenal. The amount of information that you gave us there, the mathematical formulas, the number of mathematical formulas that have got into like calculating how to build the pyramids and then the building of the pyramids. It's just mind-boggling. It just goes over your head. I mean, I didn't even go up to the level of maths to even try to do some of those formulas that you spoke about there, the Euler formula, and I think I've just about managed the trigonometry and measuring the different sides of right angles, triangles, and all of that. But if they'd have given us that within the context of the pyramids, and we were talking about all of these formulas in the pyramid, including measuring the speed of light, and in precision with the cosmos and the meridian line. And I was learning as well that there are a number of other buildings that our African ancestors built that were also in alignment with the meridian line. It's as if it was they were drawing on some powers, from that invisible energy that goes around this planet. It's just phenomenal. Should we go into the chat and pick up some of the comments there?
Please do.
There was lots of chatting going on, but to be honest, I wasn't, concentrating on the chat as much as I normally would, because, I was just blown away by all this mathematics that's in there. What longitude and latitude and the distance from the sun and the mean distance to the moon and the sun's radius, all those formulas and calculations in the pyramids. Well, family, I don't know about you, but I've just seen mathematics now from a totally different perspective. Dee, why is mathematics called mathematics? Are you able to shed some light on that? Why is mathematics even called mathematics in the first place?
That's a great question. That's a very, very good question. And to be honest with you, I couldn't give you that answer why it's called mathematics, but it's got some Greek roots. I know that, but why it's called actually mathematics, I don't know. I couldn't tell you that one.
Okay, we'll have to do some research into that one then. Maybe Dee, if you could do the research and bring back the knowledge and share it with us. Mr. Wilfred is saying, great presentation. Thank you so much. Taharaka is asking, is saying, very good presentation, and asks us a question. Does the professor believe the main pyramid could have been an electric power plant?
Absolutely. Now you're going into the realms of Tesla, the 369.
Hey.
That was what a lot of energy would have come from the pyramids, the way that they built it, the way that they aligned it, the power that it was receiving and generating. The sister who posed that is absolutely spot on. That is my take on this. And they've never been able to replicate that energy system since. But yes, I truly believe it was an energy source. Absolutely 100%.
Wow.
Tesla went to Egypt to study.
Wow.
So
there we go. So we know where he got his knowledge from, and whose feet he studied. And here we are again, using the knowledge of our ancestors right up until today. And that obviously would have been free energy that they were tapping into. And it would have been natural energy Not like the
Absolutely.
energy that we're using today, you know, the gas from all the oil that they're pumping out of the ground that's causing all the fracking and the plates to move. There's free energy out there. And I actually believe that some of our inventors today have that knowledge in their DNA. So these inventors that are creating, you know, cars that run on free energy and televisions that don't need to be charged, and all these other inventors, could they have tapped into that universal knowledge that our ancestors have? What do you think
I,
about that, Pat?
absolutely, because and this is why they make the system as it is. Because once they're aware of someone who has tapped into that, they buy them off. They offer them something that they cannot refuse. They make the system so hard, and they say, "Listen, we know." It's a bit like you have somebody who's an amazing hacker. The big companies want that hacker, and they will pay that hacker any money to come over to us because we need you to build a system for those. And
Yeah,
that's the same
yeah,
mentality. That's exactly
yeah.
that's exactly what we're getting here.
Wow. Yeah, Gebra, rise up, Gebra. Gebra's in the house, and he's made a stab at giving us a reason why he thinks mathematics is called mathematics, and it's something to do with maat, M-A-A-T, maat, because everything must balance. Because of course,
Absolutely.
maat was about balance and order and reciprocity, and yeah. Wow, wow,
Makes
wow.
perfect
Carol is saying,
sense.
will you please write a children's book? Well, you know, you are an author, so you're not new to writing. But if
Definitely.
you could include some of these mathematical formulas in a child-friendly way, just to let them see that within the pyramid, all of these formulas are there, and it was
Mm,
our ancestors with their images, you know, of our
absolutely.
ancestors in there, you know, that arrived at all these calculations. Then yeah, our children would probably love maths a lot more. Mandela says, why is the North taught today in mainstream school not in line with the true North? Not in line with the truth.
Well, because their system
Oh,
is
sorry.
not
Why
aligned.
is the maths taught today in mainstream school
Yes.
not in line with the truth? Yeah.
Well, because if we know the truth, we would know that we're supposed to be swapping places, and they don't want they don't want that. You see, they don't want that. And if we know the truth, then we're set free.
Yeah.
We're very powerful with it.
Oh.
They have to hide it behind their system because
Mm.
this is why the mathematics that they teach you, you're generally taught by individuals who have who have just some of them have just passed eighth grade level. To be totally honest with you, they don't have an understanding that they can pass on. They're they've been taught mechanically,
Mm.
so they have to pass it on mechanically because they don't know any other
Mhm.
way. And the
Mhm.
truth is
Mhm.
very organic. So you have to align maths to what it is you're doing. For example, imagine you have
Mhm.
a somebody who says they want to be a carpenter. Well, teach them the maths that underpins carpentry. Why would you teach them
Mhm.
all the other plethora of maths that they don't need? Teach them the
Mm,
maths
mm, mm.
that aligns with
Good.
carpentry. Makes sense, but they don't want
Absolutely.
to do. So
Mhm. Thank you so much for that. You know, and I was looking at something earlier, and it was to do with the power of the mind. You see, and as you were saying, this is why they don't want to teach us the maths in a particular way that will enable us to acquire all that knowledge, because knowledge is power, and you know, the mind is a powerful thing. Imagine, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine how our ancestors, you know, actually arrived at all of those formulas and did those calculations. I mean, a little while ago, there was a video circulating of some really old machine that they thought must be at least 1 million, possibly 1 billion years old. It's that old, they can't even date it. And they were asking the question, is this the world's first computer? Could it be that there were, I mean, we knew that there were, they had mechanized, you know, objects and pieces of equipment. So the mechanization of things did exist. Could there have been some kind of mechanically engineered computer that was assisting in the computation of all of this, or were we doing it in our head, or how were we, do you think, arriving at the calculations of monitoring, for example, the distance to the moon and the sun, and
Well, what I will say is this: our ancestors definitely had access to a higher knowledge. But here's the thing:
mm,
in mathematics, you are not supposed
mm,
to think. We're here thinking, how did they
mm,
do that?
supposed to
We are not
know.
supposed to think, because you see, if you do the numbers and you start
Hmm.
seeing the angles, you will start
Yeah,
to
exactly.
remember. You're not
Mm,
supposed to
mm,
think. When you think, you don't know.
mm-hmm.
What you're doing is
Yes.
remembering. And if we're in a line and in tune, we will remember, we will go back to what our ancestors were doing. And with the numbers, it will come to us. But we're so far removed
Mm-hmm.
because we've been conditioned to think when it comes to maths.
Mm-hmm.
Think,
Mm-hmm.
think, think. But if you
Mm.
don't know, how do you think? But
This
if
is
you
it.
know, if someone teaches you,
Yeah,
all you have to do is remember.
yeah. Wow. Dor Bua asks us a brilliant question. Where can we find you? Uh, this this is so important because you also do math classes, don't you, for young people and children. You help them with their maths so that they can pass their exams, so that they can get, even an understanding of the origins of math. So if people wanted to find you, how could they go about locating you?
Well, this is the one area which I haven't actually nailed. I have the site goes live Friday morning, and on that
Mhm,
site you will have access to uh, the classes that I offer. The book will also be on there if you want to access it. There'll also be small
mhm,
videos that you can watch for free that show you what it is I do and how I do it, and you will get a
mhm,
feel of me. Plus, you will gain access to maths tuition as and when you require. There'll be opportunities to book on there as well. As well, I've got a wealth of audios and also videos that one can access as well. So that site
wow.
goes live. I apologize, it's not up yet, but it
So
goes
what's the
live.
address, please?
The address is maths maths, and then you've got
Mhm,
to put another S for surgery. So it's two S's together. Because if you put one S, it'll take you
mhm.
to another site, different site. So maths
Okay.
surgery, two S's,
Uh-huh.
.com.
.com, mathsurgery.com. I've just posted it in the chat, and that goes live on Friday. So do check back. And of course, they can catch you on the Big G Galaxy Alpha Radio, just in case there were some who joined us late. I wonder if you could just remind the listeners when your shows are on the Big G.
Uh, I'm on it every Tuesday between the hours of 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the show is it's a mass talk show, and people are able to call in, and we look at the subject of the day, whatever the subject of the day is. We align that to real life, and we also align it to what is in the maths books at school, because mathematics is supposed to give you truth. So if we're looking at
Mm,
probabilities, for example, we align it to life. How are we using it in life? So you have an understanding. We then apply it to the questions that you may get in the question books at school. And you're also able to bring a question to the fore. I won't always necessarily give you the answer, but I'll always give you the process as to how to get there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And I'm just posting the Xeno link to Galaxy Afuri Radio in the chat as well. So you've got that there. Carol is asking a question. She says, please talk about the stone calendars found in Africa, especially in Kenya and the Sahara. Could these stone structures be used to tell the distance from the Earth to a celestial object?
Okay, well, here's the deal. Numbers don't lie. So as long as we align the numbers to whatever this monument is, and we're able to measure it, we can then tell you yes or no. It's as simple as that, because the numbers just don't lie. So many of these buildings, if they're built by our ancestors, they will have some significance in some capacity. And the numbers hopefully will tell us what it is. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. Mondele says, did our ancestors have 360 degrees of knowledge as in, had they attained full knowledge of the element of creations?
That's a deep question. All I can tell you is that we had access to a higher knowledge, a knowledge that I don't have access to. So, so yes, their knowledge has stood the test of time. It is far superior than anything we've seen up until this point, and there's many more areas of that knowledge that we haven't touched yet, we haven't accessed yet, we haven't stumbled across yet. But as the more we go down the rabbit hole, I'm sure we're going to come up with amazing things. But we have to remember that nothing under the moon or the sun is new. So anything we come across, it's always in there. It's just that our ancestors knew about it long before we did. So, and now we're coming and trying to find out exactly what it is.
Mr. Wilfred is asking if you can come back and give the same type of presentation on the Dogon and the Sirius star system. Are you familiar with the Dogon and their connection to the Sirius star system?
I know about the Dogon and the star system. I would have to do the numbers though around that, because with everything you have to just go and look at that and then apply the numbers. So I would go and look at that and see what numbers are involved and then share with you my findings.
Okay, thank you so much. We are 2 minutes away from the top of the hour, and wow, family, if you didn't know before, we certainly know now, don't we, of the substantial number of mathematical formulas that have gone into calculating gone into the calculations for building the pyramids. I had no idea, and what a higher level of knowledge of learning we had indeed, because we just can't even begin to imagine how they did it and how they got those formulas, some of the numbers, and the precision, the tropical year, the calendar, all the lunar year, all the different calendars, and based on the 24-hour clock and each room that the pharaoh had, and the measurement of each of those rooms, representing the hours of the day. It's just, wow, incredible. Well, we are incredible people, are we not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. We are just so much greater than we can even begin to imagine. If we were using mathematics as a science, which we were, in order to build those monumental structures, then, what does that say about our capability today? If we were able to do the calculations, not just on Earth, but from Earth to the cosmos and back again, prior to there being satellites, what does that say about who we are?
Absolutely.
And we still have those genes.
If I could just say, if I could just add finally that, people have to understand, we have to understand, family, that because I saw somebody was asking about, would one be able to add maths to quantum financial something. I can't see it now, but numbers doesn't lie. Doesn't matter what subject it is. It could be your relationship. It doesn't matter, because that quantum financial system is just a term that somebody has put there. Underneath that is the numbers. So quantum financial system, yeah, we can open that up and see what the numbers are, see what formulas they're using to understand. Everything nowadays is all AI, artificial intelligence, which is a higher level of algebra using primes, prime numbers, and the sequences of those, because you can't find them out. It's very difficult. A lot of that probably sits under your quantum financial system, because it has to be watertight. In the maths world, they call it cryptography. These are the subjects that our students should be learning.
Well, I certainly hope that some of the students are watching this video, are going to be watching this video. So family, please do share the knowledge. Please do share. And if you haven't given us a like and a thumbs up, thanks, Anthony, for all those thumbs up. If everyone else can give us a thumbs up as they leave, and leave some comments under the video as well about, you know, the greatness of our ancestors, about the formulas that we have been exposed to, about the fact that, you know, it's our ancient ancestors who invented mathematics. You know, let's get the message out there. We have gone over our 2 hours, but, you know, it's been worth it. It's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you so much, my brother Pi Ratio, for gracing the platform today. And I know there's just so much more in you that you want to give on this topic. So, you know, we'll be, you know, groveling to ask you to come back again to share with us. To everyone in the chat, for all the questions and comments, thank you so much. Wilfred, you were asking for our brother Pi Ratio to come back. Hopefully he will do. And just remind your young people, your children, your grandchildren, your nephews, your nieces, just remind them that we are the ones that invented mathematics. Point them to this video and 1 or 2 of the slides, or just take a screenshot of 1 or 2 of the slides in this video and show it to your young person with a list of all the different formulas that went into calculating, you know, the length, the breadth, the width, and the distance, and everything else of the pyramids, and let them know we did that. We did it first.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Brother Pi Ratio. To everyone who's in the audience, thank you so much for tuning in again to the Sister Shanice Show. All being well, we will be back next strong. So please do make sure that you join us and put the word out so that family and friends can join us too. Sister Shanice, out of here for now. Take care. One love.